So delighted to be joined today by Michael Johnson. Michael, sir, how are you today?
Very good. Very good. Yeah, good to be with you.
Thanks so much for joining me. Listen, let me ask a question. It's something personally I just always want to ask it. At the moment, we seem to be getting a lot of companies coming to us to run events around the subject of peak performance. And obviously they like sports people because automatically that's associated to peak performance. And one of the things that's interesting to me, in the world of athletics, I kind of feel you guys have always been dealing in peak performance by the fact that you're dealing in moments in time. And even more so in athletics where you've got several stages kind of before you get to the qualifying, before you get to the final. Were you consciously aware of what peak performance was, or is it something that has evolved while you were doing it subconsciously when you were training and running?
I mean, yeah, I've lived peak performance all of my life. I mean, think about you're standing there behind the blocks in the moments before the gun goes off at an Olympic final, and 19 seconds from the time that gun goes off, you're going to be the Olympic champion or you're not. I mean, that sort of scenario, puts you in the mindset of peak performance in the weeks, the months, even years leading up to that moment, because that's your opportunity to be prepared. And you want to be able to use every day as that opportunity to be in peak shape and peak mindset to go in there and execute at your absolute best in that moment in order to win. So every day you're living that mindset of, I have to be at my absolute best. Everything that is going to impact on my ability to deliver the best performance that I can in that 19 seconds on the day is critical.
And is your mind shift different when you're in those qualifying rounds beforehand? Or is it always the same mindset, whether it's the final or before, or the race before?
So the mindset is the same. The strategy may be different when you're running preliminary or semifinal rounds leading to a final, because the objective may be different. In a preliminary round, it's early in the championships. The objective is to qualify for the next round, and maybe over, let's say, a 400-meter race, the objective is to conserve as much energy as possible so that when you get into the final, you still have something left. So your mindset is the same. Go in here and achieve the objective, but the strategy may be different. In a semifinal, you're running to advance into the final, but you're also running for lane preference. So the better you qualify, the better lane you will be allocated in the final. So there are lots of different things from a strategic standpoint that may be different between those. But at the same time, the mindset is the same. It's go in and achieve whatever the objective is for the race.
Love that. Listen, I read recently you gave some strong opinions of where you think athletics is and what needs to be done to make it more attractive to the spectator, the consumer, whatever we want to do it, in a world where certainly we've seen the rise with F1 and Netflix and Drive to Survive and all this other stuff. Where do we stand? Can you summarise for me where are we with athletics and what needs to be done and your feelings towards it?
Yeah, so you have to think about athletics this way. Athletics was an amateur sport for many, many years. After many of the other more popular sports that we know of, Premier League football or football around the world, NFL football here in the U.S., or NBA, or tennis, or golf. Those sports did not originate as Olympic sports. They started as professional sports from the very beginning, or they moved from amateur sport into professional sports, but they were never an Olympic sport. And they professionalized, way before track and field ever did, before athletics did. Athletics has always been an Olympic sport. But it has tried to also maintain a professional sport adjacent to the Olympic sport. And that professional sport has never been able to escape the shadow of the Olympics. So most people only think about athletics every 4 years during the Olympics.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
The sport itself, in terms of it being professional, that effort to professionalize the sport has always been led by the federations. Federations aren't businesses, so they don't know how to really market a product and develop a product. So that is the problem. And until we can move that professional side of the sport from outside of the realm of the federations, it's going to continue to struggle, unfortunately.
And do you think it relies on the Olympics and its association in order to keep it going?
Yeah, if there were no Olympics, there would be no athletics. So because professional track and field is at such an insignificant level, most people don't even know it exists. So outside of the Olympics, there would be no athletics. I mean, every athlete. I mean, I was able to develop, my own reputation. I ran many races over my career, won many races, and had great performances, and did really well financially, and all of those things in the professional side of the sport. But if it wasn't for the Olympics, you and I probably wouldn't be having this conversation if I hadn't done what I did as an Olympian.
Well, it's amazing what you did as an Olympian. So therefore, do you look at it, I suppose kind of the obvious question out of it is, do you then look at the Olympics as a blessing or a curse for athletics?
Yeah, it's both, and I think that it could, under the right, situation, it could be simply just a blessing, because you take all of the sports that aren't in the Olympics, professional sports that aren't Olympic sports, they want to be associated with the Olympics, because the Olympics is great. But in the case of athletics, because it started as an Olympic sport, it has never been able to escape that shadow of the Olympics. So I'll give you a good example. As an athlete, if you have your biggest earning potential is through your contracts with, say, a shoe company like Nike, as an example. Well, your incentive is based on how you do at the biggest performance and the biggest competition, in athletics, which is the Olympics. So you're going to prioritize that over any sort of professional races. So that's why we don't see great matchups, between the best 100-meter sprinters until it gets to the Olympics or a world championship. But in the professional competitions that take place throughout the year, they're not going to compete against each other because they're not incentivized to do so. So you don't then have a product to actually market as a professional sport.
So let me ask one last question in reference to something you said earlier. Obviously, and I fully admit it, kind of the performance at the Barcelona Olympics was absolutely beyond belief. Is that your favourite race, or are there others which actually us mere punters never saw or anything like that, which you're more proud of?
Yeah, it's so favorite, as the athlete who was actually producing these performances is hard, because each one of them was special. Every championship that I competed in had its own special relevance for me, because I know, what the circumstances were. I knew what the goal was. So obviously, though, I had the great fortune of being able to make history and do something that no one had ever done and no one has ever been able to do since at an Olympic Games in my own country. And that's just an amazing opportunity. So, of course, that's what most people remember me for, and it was amazing. But, yeah, I had some championships that I won where, I was injured and no one expected me to win. I was the only person that, thought I can still win this even though I'm injured and I'm at a severe disadvantage, and I was able to win it. And I'm very proud of that as another example on the other end of the spectrum. It was my slowest winning 400-meter championship ever. 1997 World Championships. I was injured. Horrible performance by my standards, but I still was able to win that race. And I probably shouldn't have even been there because I was injured. And I won it on sheer, fortitude and strategy and just understanding how to pull out a win. There's that saying, there are people that can be great in great times, but can you be great in hard times? And I was very proud of the fact that that was a very hard time, a huge challenge, and I was able to be great in that situation.
Michael, on that note, thank you so much indeed for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and have a great day.
All right, thanks.